Good morning, everyone. It's Mary from Wolf Haven Farm. I thought it would be fun today to show you what came out of the kilns. So I was working on putting together the pendants for the chandeliers and really wanted to test out a couple different things. One is we wanted to test the kilns to make sure they're working okay because it has been 3 years since they've been in storage. Secondly, I wanted to test out different colors, really more from an opaque, transparent perspective than the actual color itself. So I did use scrap glass, not some of my favorite colors, but it's more, I wanted to see the opaque versus transparent. And then I wanted to test different molds to see what would work best. Now, what was interesting is when I first did the first step, so you have to fuse the glass together first, and then you drape it or you slump it in a mold. And when I did the first test run, I actually had a piece not come out right, which was interesting because I've never had this particular thing happen in a piece before. And I don't know if it's the elevation or not. All the pieces came out with bubbles in them. And typically that means that you're not holding it for long enough between 11 and 1200 degrees. And so I need to think about, I might need to change my schedules on my kilns for the fact that we're 6,600 feet. Now they're saying that it doesn't matter, that you're up higher, that these electric kilns are fine no matter your elevation. But I do think it's interesting that the standard steps that I have followed didn't quite work. And so I'm going to take a look at that. But this piece is interesting because what happened is half of it broke and slid off in the kiln, and then the rest of it fused together. But there's actually a bump right there, if you can see it, that I think is the cause of the problem. I think it created some kind of, it had something maybe between the two pieces of glass because I heard it do it. I was in here, heard something hit the floor of the kiln. Now, you can't open a kiln when it's 600 degrees, and that's what it was at. And so I went ahead and said, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. I had kiln washed the bottom of the kilns really well. Again, having been in storage, when we opened them up, cleaned them out really well, kiln washed all of them really well. And so when I did open and it was the rest of that was sitting on the floor of the kiln, I was able to pick it up very easily, so it didn't damage the kiln. But anyway, so I'm going to show you what came out of the kilns and introduce you to my kilns at the same time. First one here is Jenny. So named because it's a Jen Ken kiln. This was the first kiln I've ever gotten. She's super reliable, which ironically, this is the one that the piece broke in, but I don't think it had anything to do with Jenny. I think it had something to do with the glass being how it was set together. But this piece didn't come out quite what I expected. So this is the mold that I used. And so I really expected the piece to drape more down around that mold than it did. So I think it's super cute, but not really what I was expecting. And I'm not so sure that's going to work well for a pendant. And so, because it's pretty small too, and I knew it was going to be small, but we weren't really sure on what sizes to use. So started with that. So then this is Holly. So Holly is also a Jen Ken kiln. But she's named Holly because the beginning of December every year, Jen Ken, which actually is a company out of Lakeland, Florida, so they were close to where we used to live, they do a big sale at the beginning of December on some used kilns. And that's how I got this one. And so since it was December, close to Christmas, I named her Holly. This one did what I expected it to do. So this is a great mold. It's called, I think, the tornado or the hurricane mold just because of the twist that's in it. And it created that dynamic in the glass that you can see. I think the size of this one works really interesting for pendants to sit. So it basically would sit like, this up in a shade. And I intentionally did this one transparent, but transparent that had a pattern in it because I wanted to see what that would look like. So I took this piece of glass, and it's 2 layers because you fuse it together first, and I put them in opposite directions so that you would get this pattern, a different kind of pattern in the glass itself, and then it went into the twist. So I think that one's got a huge possibility for us to use in one of the kilns. Now I'm going to introduce you to Kitty first. So Kitty, you can see, is not in operation. This came from Prescott, hence Kitty. Plus Kitty just seems appropriate for out here in the West. But a lovely lady owned this for 20 plus years, absolutely loved it, cried when I took it away, but she'd gotten a new kiln and wanted this one to go to a good home. So it does need a little work, but it's also a Jen Ken kiln. And so I reached out to the team in Lakeland and told them what I had, and I'm going to work with them to get the parts that I need to fix it. So that'll be nice because Obviously a much larger kiln, you can tell. It's also a 220 kiln. All my other ones are 110, but this one's 220. So it's also going to be interesting to see what kind of impact that has. And then this is Olympia. So it's an Olympic kiln, which is why she's named Olympia. She is still closed because it takes her a lot longer to cool down. The other two cool down pretty quickly, but the way this one is designed is different, and it takes her longer. So I'm venting her right now, but I will give you a sneak peek inside, but then I'm going to close it real quick because she's still probably sitting over 80 degrees inside, which isn't bad. It's okay and safe. Anything under 100 degrees, it's safe to take your pieces out, but I'm just going to let her cool down a little more before I fully take it out. But this is what this one looks like. So it's a great mold, and that piece is opaque glass. So I wanted to see what glass would look like. So what we can do now is we can use these and put light bulbs underneath them and see what they start to look like. We can take them, they're 3 different sizes, so we can take them over to the lamp frames to see what's going to look best from a size perspective. The next step, though, to me is a little scary, and I'm going to use the test pieces to do this too, just because I've never done this, is you need to cut a hole in the bottom of the glass. Now, I've seen this done. I saw it done at the conference that I was just at. I've seen people do it online. The key to it is water. You need to be pouring water on that glass the whole time you're cutting into it. I've seen it done with a drill press. I've seen it done with a Dremel, and I've seen it done with a tile saw. To me, doing it in the tile saw is the best option. And I have my tile saw still in a box, but I got this at the conference. It was the last day of the conference, and they didn't want to haul it home, so they discounted it for me. So now I have cut glass on tile saws before. Mike has a big tile saw, so you have to buy a diamond tip blade. So you can't use anything but diamond when you're cutting through glass. And so I have that. I don't know where it is, so that's the other thing. I got to find it. It may actually still be in Mike's tile saw, because I think the last thing we cut with this tile saw was a glass piece. But I have to find it. But his tile saw didn't really work because of the way that the water flows onto the tile. It's different than what is needed from a glass perspective. The glass needs a lot of water put onto it while you're cutting it. And so getting this tile saw, I think, is going to be a lot better. So anyways, that's where we are. We will give you an update as to how things start to look, and when we get them on the chandeliers, and as we test things out, and as I try cutting one, because I haven't done that before. But anyways, I hope everybody's having a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.